Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Everlasting Summer. Take a quick drink there, refill my drink. So, yeah, I recorded this right after the previous one. Excuse me, in that we essentially just had sex with Alice. And I just realized in all of day 7, or 6 rather, yeah, day 6, that's right, so this is day 7. Anyways, we didn't make one choice. That whole day just kind of happened to us. We didn't make any choices. Yet we still ended up getting some. So, yay. Anyways, so some people were chasing me. What were they chasing? What were they doing? Well, let's find out. Or maybe they weren't people, but fuzzy black blots of hellish landscape in the background. With a hellish. I ran so far away, stumbling over something, having no air to breathe. My whole essence was overtaken by primal fear and terror. And then, a memory lapse. Ellipses was there as always. Hey, I opened my swollen eyelids only for my to be eyes struck by lights. Anyway, only to be struck by a bright light. A terrible taste in my mouth. Pains all over my body. A severe headache. It seemed someone was drinking hard yesterday. After coming to my senses, I started to recall the events of last night. I believe there was a bottle of vodka, which I happily emptied together with Alice. I tried to stand up, but something was pinning my left arm. It was the perfectly snoring Alice. Everything that happened returned to my mind. Fear was quickly replaced by the feeling of euphoria. I relaxed lazily on the bed, enjoying the beautiful hangover morning. Sometime later, Alice woke up. I kissed her softly and said, "Good morning." She gave me a blank look for a couple seconds, then jumped up shouting, You! Me what? Yesterday, you! She hissed. But it was kinda your idea. I was drunk! So was I. What can you do? Alice was fiercely looking at me, but clammed down and sat beside me. Alright. Whatever happened, happened. You sure? I got up and tried to hug her. Don't, she whispered, blushing. Why? Because. Alice frantically shook her head. Because it's 4 o'clock already. And what? Don't tell me that you're late for something. Everyone will leave without us. Leave? Where? Today is the last day. The last day of what? I asked, completely confused. The last day of the term. What? The hangover that seemed to have already passed a while ago made a sharp comeback. Don't tell me you didn't know. Alice asked in surprise. So you did know it? Well, yes, but I forgot it somehow. And what should we do now? Actually, that wasn't the main thing that I was concerned about. If today's the last day, then everyone will go somewhere. So I can get out of this camp somehow? Well, I have no idea. Maybe we can still make it? I jumped out of the bed and started dressing quickly. It was difficult as my coordination was badly disturbed by yesterday's lavishly What are we waiting for? What are you waiting for? Alice didn't reply, but started dressing too. Gendo was ever there. A couple of minutes later, we were standing at a deserted square. Let's go to the camp leader's cabin. After opening Olga's cabin with my key, I found nobody inside. Ellipses was running late too. We checked the entire camp and found that we were all alone there. Ellipses begged to differ. After returning to the square, I sat down, covered my face with my hands like a dune man. To cover my face with air. I sat. If I can read without actually guessing what they're going to say. I sat. I still felt sick, but now it turned out that I had to solve a serious problem. Where would they have gone? Well, to the district center, I guess. Do you know where it is? Approximately. Is it possible to reach there by foot? Don't know. And how long would it take on a bus? A couple of hours. Quickly, I reckoned how much that was in kilometers. Taking into account the quality of Soviet motor cars, it's quite possible to reach it in foot, provided that Alice knew the exact direction. Moreover, in my situation, it's not easy to decide on such steps. But we can't stay here either. Alone, without food, in a deserted pioneer camp. In real life, it would have been definitely a bad idea, and I had no other choice but to treat everything here as reality. Well, let's get going. Where? To the district center. Are you mad? You prefer to stay here? Sure. They noticed that we are missing and will return. Don't you think it's odd that they didn't notice it during the departure? Well, yeah, but she started to think. But to go somewhere at all on our own. But you said you knew the direction. I do. She agreed with confidence. So, what's there to think about? Maybe we'll encounter some local buses along the way. I don't really believe that myself, but if there is an exit from this camp, this idea seemed quite solid. I don't know. As you say, she paddled on confusion. They started packing your... Then start packing your stuff and meet me in a half hour. I ran toward Olger's cabin. Yes, not much to pack. I tossed my warm clothes into a bag and I was about to go when an interesting thought crossed my mind. What would I actually need them for? It doesn't seem to be late summer, so no point in dragging unnecessary weighted clothes, especially since I don't know how far I have to walk. After reasoning that one could survive such weather without a coat, warm boots, I shoved my cell phone with its dying battery into my pocket and went to the square. I had to wait for at least 20 minutes for Alice. My hangover seemed to ease a little, so I could better focus on the previous night. What does she really mean to me? Was it just drunken sex or something more? Naturally, I can't speak for Alice. It's difficult to even speak for myself. I began to remember the course of my acquaintances with her. How she teased and mocked me at first, how her arrogance and self-confidence. It was more than compensation for the tenderness. She was a good lay. It doesn't mean justify her actions before. I'm pretty sure Lena would have been nice. I thought that's what I was going for. It was already clear that she's not the person she wants to seem like. But what kind of person is the real Alice? And do I have any feelings towards her? I do feel sympathy, a sort of affection, but is there something more? My reflections were interrupted by the person I was trying to reflect on. Hey, here, take this. She held out a huge backpack to me. What's this? I asked skeptically. My stuff. Why so little? I brought as much as I could fit. Look. We don't know how far we have to go. Maybe you can only take the most necessary items? So what? I just have to throw it away, leave it here? Alice sniffed. Firstly, I couldn't understand why she had that much stuff, and secondly, what's so valuable in here? But the chivalrous duty of carrying it is mine, isn't it? Of course. She smiled archly. I evaluated how much it would weigh. At least 10 kilos. No clue what that is, I guessed. I can carry that for a few kilometers, but not much further than that. You do understand that we're not getting very far with it. Well, we'll do our best. You mean I can throw something away out later? We'll see. She answered, with her eyes flashing slyly. Okay, I'm taking your word. Taking you at your word. After all, as I have to carry it, I have the right to throw things out. And so our journey began. Oh, I'm trying to think, what was the song from The Hobbit, the cartoon? The great adventure is waiting for you ahead. No, that's Lemmiwinks. Hurry on, more Lemmiwinks, or you will soon be dead. The journey for you may be long and filled with dread, but you must escape the gay man's ancestry tale. But anyways, it took me at least an hour to start getting tired. I would have never thought that I possessed such stamina, except for last night. Hey now! Either the backpack was easy to carry, or last night's exercise had trained my muscles. I stopped on the roadside and threw Alice's belongings to the ground. What are you doing? She clearly was resentful. Do you want to carry it yourself? Of course not. In that case, I need the rest. Naturally, the most rational decision was to get rid of most of the stuff, keeping only the most necessary things, but I couldn't bring myself to do such a dramatic thing. I mean, just look at that face. You've been keeping silent for the whole time. Alice started staring vacantly down the road, then receded into the distance. What is there to talk about? Don't know. But you're behaving as if nothing happened. Did something happen? She asked absent-mindedly. Well, you know, me, you, my penis, your vagina, they kind of met last night. I thought it was great. Well, my penis did anyways. It felt really good. Nothing? The birds seem to like it. No? Okay, thanks. Had enough rest? Then let's go. Alice began to walk quickly away from me. Hey, wait a minute. I shouted the backpack and ran after her. Ellipses followed suit. We ended up in the same location. We've been traveling in silence for some time, when Alice slightly ahead of me, and then me behind. I had no idea how to start a conversation. She seemed to be giving out obvious hints that tonight's events were one big mistake. At least, it seemed so to me. Though, from my point of view, what happened was meant to happen. For the last few days in camp, I definitely been attracted to Alice. And I believe she was attracted to me after all. That was that whole thing of who do I choose, her and Lena, that she forced upon me. And then she forced liquor down my throat. Kind of. In that case, what's the problem? Maybe she doesn't want it to be just a one-night stand. You know. She turned and looked at me. The band had finally caught up to us and was playing their melody music. If I did something wrong, you did nothing wrong, but it just turned out this way. So, it was just an accident? I didn't say that. Then what did you say? Am I a woman now? Did it mean nothing to you? When the band was confused also. My inability to get a straight answer made me begin to lose my temper, and I raised my voice. You're just giving me hints, ambiguous. What about straightforwardness, sincerity? You weren't like this before. People tend to change. She slowly paced forward. Change? You call this change? You're a completely different person, just like Lena, really. Alice stopped, but didn't turn. Don't compare. Got it? Don't compare me with her. She spoke quietly, but there was rage in her voice. What? I was somewhat taken aback. You blame me for everything, but what about yourself? You constantly looking at her. Even now, you manage to see her in me. Wait, what? Why did you come yesterday then? You could have gone to her. You did know. Did know what? Did know that I was waiting for you. It seemed that making this confession was a hard decision for Alice, but at first, I assigned little significance to her words. Well, you yourself told me to come in yesterday, so I... This isn't about that. Alice burst into sobs and covered her face with her hands. I was completely taken aback. Still, I still didn't get what she was hinting at, so it was impossible to talk normally. Sorry? Forgive me? Stop apologizing! But if I said or did something wrong, so what's the point in apologizing? If you already did, better to behave yourself from the beginning. But I don't know how. Alice looked up at me. There was such sorrow in her gaze that I couldn't bear it and I turned away. We stood like that for some time. She seemed to pull herself back together. Okay. Forget it. Let's just move on. Naturally, I couldn't forget it even if I wanted to, but I had nothing to say anyway, so I followed her in silence. Ellipses agreed. We just stood there till nightfall, the scenery never changing. The sun was slowly moving below the horizon. I immersed in thought and even forgot about the heavy backpack on my back. I had to say something, do something. Alice is expecting me to. At least a few words. But what should I begin with? I've gotten used to everything in my life being quite simple. Any task seemed to be already finished after only a few steps. Instead of considering the long way to my goal, I immediately started to think about the results, enjoying an unachieved victory. Moreover, I doubt I'd have to face a situation like this in the real world, you see. Obviously, for a long time I dreamed about a person who could take care of me, essentially. But right now, such person is in front of me. Such a person is in front of me. And yet, I feel nothing. And I can't tell Alice either yes or no just because I don't know what will happen next. Meanwhile, it got dark. I guess we should make camp for the night? There's not much left to go. Are you sure? And even that's so, it's better to travel during the daytime. You know best, she answered coldly. We stopped at the edge of the woods. Got anything useful in there? I pointed at the backpack. Have a look. Mainly footwear, clothes were there, but at the bottom I found a magazine and a box of matches. Quite enough to light a fire. Soon we were sitting on a fallen tree and warming our hands by the fire. Only now did I finally realize that I've gotten out of that damn camp. I found no answers. On the contrary, everything had become even more tangled as I guessed I am to spend the rest of my life in this, reality. If I don't take into consideration all the sci-fi stuff, it's clear that I'm somewhere in the South at the end of the 80s. Now, and more importantly, why I was brought here is not so important as I have to adapt somehow. And I ought to begin with the girl sitting by my side. So, what will we do when we reach the district center? Call our parents. What else? Alice smiled slightly. She had someone to call. And then it's all over. Meaning, well, we leave for our homes. I wasn't really surprised by that answer. I just hadn't thought about what would happen after the term ended. And that's it. What else is there? Well, I don't know. After all that's happened. But nothing happened at all, she told me merrily. Oh, I see. It was, but nothing happened at all. I see. What do you mean nothing happened? You had a chance. You'll have a chance to find Lena. I was surprised, but Alice said it absolutely kindly. As if I need Lena. Don't you? To be honest, Lena was the last person I was thinking about now. No. Then maybe it's me? I looked at Alice attractively. Anyway, she grinned spitefully. And she was weeping just recently. What about you? I evaded the question. What do you think about me? You know I don't know. Maybe you can't just say it straight out. A long silence fell. Alice is waiting for a straight answer, but I can't sort it out for myself. This pioneer at camp and now this girl who wants to hear something, I can't say that easily. You see, and then I really understood. I understood that now it's no use trying to be cunning and holding things back. I almost managed to break out of this cage. The worst is over. Or, on the contrary, the worst is yet to come. But, time to speak plainly. You see, what you're expecting from me is almost impossible. Looks like everything's impossible for you, she sniffed. It's weird to say it, but it's true. I don't know what happened to me, but not even necessarily tomorrow, but the next second. I don't know what will happen to me. Excuse me, that makes more sense. What's going to happen to me? Not necessarily tomorrow, but not in the next second. And what might it be? Will you vanish into thin air? Quite possibly, actually. She burst into pearls of laughter. You know, I was ready for any excuse, but not one like that. There aren't any excuses. Just listen. Alice gazed at me intently, and it seemed had no intention of interrupting. You see, I don't belong in this place. I'm not talking about the camp, but about this whole world. All of you here are completely strange, incomprehensible people to me. As are you for us, actually. I'm not even sure if you are from my planet or my reality for that matter. Quit it now, Alice said tiredly. Imagine, now stay with me, that once you fell asleep and woke up in a completely different place. And not just place, but a different time as well. That's essentially what happened to me. I used to live in the early 21st century in a city far away from here, up north. I was somewhat older than I look now. I had my own life, regardless of whether it was a good or bad. It was my own, damn it. And then one night, I took a bus, fell asleep, and, well, woke up here as a 17-year-old pioneer. Alice looked at me in surprise. And, you expect me to believe you? I don't know. It's really up to you. It really wasn't easy for me to tell you that, you know. You're a master storyteller, really. Just a second. I rummaged through my pockets and showed her my phone. To my great surprise, there was still some battery left, and the screen was glowing brightly. Have you seen something like this? Do you have something like it? I held it out for Alice. She fidgeted with it, pressing buttons. Well, some kind of imported foreign toy. So what? It's not a toy. It's a telephone. And where are the wires? Where's the headset? She laughed. There's no need for them. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate it to you how it works because they're still not invented in your time. Yeah, sure, she said skeptically and handed my phone back. Anyways, it's your decision whether you believe me or not. I told you all this only to explain what position I'm in now. I still don't know what will happen to me in an hour, so such decisions. Fine, you don't have to say it anymore. And you don't have to make any decisions. She got up and pushed some firewood onto the fire. If I've offended you. Nah, everything's fine, she said coldly. I understand. You're a visitor from the future, so normal girls like me don't interest you. You got me wrong. No, I didn't. It's very credible, logical, and above all, truthful tale. Any girl would dig it. So you still think I'm making up excuses? Alice stayed silent. Or that I've gone completely mad. One could expect anything from you. Why do you have to be like this? I said sadly. And what about me? I mean, I've done nothing wrong. She grinned spitefully. Just imagine that it's all true, and you understand why I behave so. I already understood. I was about to say something, but a horn sounded from the road. There was a bus on the roadside, a regular route. It's odd that we haven't noticed its approach. At last, salvation. Shall we go? Alice asked in a completely bland, emotionless voice. Yeah, sure. I grabbed her backpack. I can imagine it for myself. She took it from me. It's obvious that it was too heavy for her, but I didn't object. Soon we sat peacefully on the back seat of the bus. Various feelings fought inside me. One hand, I was glad, beyond measure, to get to the civilized world. On the other hand, I was guilt-stricken by the unfinished conversation with Alice. Sorry that I acted so. You expected something different. I expect nothing from you, she replied coldly. I just wanted you to understand. And considering our relationship, I like you, really. Glad to hear that. But her voice didn't sound glad. I said it honestly. You see, I don't know what happened next, but here and now, I guess last night you liked me even more. No, you misunderstood. Should we do it again while the driver can't see us? Calm down for a second. I didn't even think about it. What's the matter? You wanted it, and I don't care. It's the only thing I'm good for. Alice, wait. Okay, I want to sleep. She reclined on her seat and closed her eyes. Wait a second. I'm sleeping. Let's talk later. I didn't object. After all, it's good to seek counsel from my pillow. Besides, Alice needs some time to calm down. Although, of course, I was desperate to explain everything to her in a way she'd understand. But I held back. Still, I was sick at heart. Ellipses barely made it with us. We were alone on the bus. Outside, dark shadows were passing by. Sometimes it was possible to discern a tree, river, or pylons of power. But the landscape seemed not to differ from one in the camp. Maybe the world is a circle and we're just moving around it. Anyways, the surroundings were at least of my concerns. I just stared at the floor and thought about tomorrow. What will happen? The city, the planet, the time, all are strange to me. And further talk with Alice, who was totally disappointed with me. Ellipses agreed I should stay silent. The process of waiting happened to be more tiresome than its result. And finally, things bound to happen don't look so important or fearsome. All your strength is exhausted. There's just tiredness and emptiness in your soul. The bus was driving into the unknown. I couldn't resist and fell asleep.